Hey everyone, and welcome to another Kirby video. Today I want to pick up where we left last time by building this Bookmarks tool. The Bookmarks tool has been a great way to explore the table layout option for the pages section, and it also helped us to get more into how to customize the page creation dialog. And it is a fun exercise that is totally applicable to other page types as well. And today I want to focus a bit more on image settings. And I also want to get into page models with you. But I'm separating this one into like a more easy part first and then into the page models later, because page models are quite a step up and a bit more advanced than what we used to talk about so far in the videos. So let me get right to it. Last time I disabled the image option for the pages because it just really didn't look good. If we go back to the blueprints, those are the blueprints. It's the bookmarks blueprint for this overview, and it is the bookmark blueprint for each individual bookmark. We have two fields. We have the link field and the category field, and we use them in the table to display them. In the table, I've disabled the images, and if I enable them again, you can see, this is not really cool. It is just the checkboard, the dark checkboard with the default page icon there, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't really add anything to the table. The idea of the image previews, especially if you're looking at the cards layout or the cardlets layout, is to give you a visual representation of each page, ideally for something that has an image uploaded to it. Then it would pick up that image and show you that image, and you can quickly browse this list and see, okay, this is the album with the, I don't know, with the rhinoceros or whatever. So we could totally achieve this for this as well, but by default, the fields that we've added don't really add anything to this. So it's not working like this. We have to optimize this. To optimize the image settings for a particular page, the best place to do that is not actually in the section itself. You can define it in the section, but it's better to do it per page type, in this case in the blueprint for the bookmark. So we can set up a new image setting up here. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to change the icon. The page default icon isn't really cutting it. And I have two options now. I can set I can reference one of the icons that we have in our icon set for the panel. So for example, the edit icon, well, doesn't really represent bookmarks that well. We could use the URL icon, that works better. By the way, I also want to change the background. Let's change it to white, for example. And this is how we can optimize this. The second option for our icons is that I use an emoji. And as an emoji, I have the full, or I'm not an emoji. As emojis, I have the full selection. I can just pick anything from my emoji picker and just put it in there, and then it will be picked up and used in the preview. Again, this is not super useful because it is still the same. If we use an icon for bookmarks that works more for bookmarks, that's nice. It enhances the table a bit more, but still, it's not perfect yet. One thing that I forgot to mention about referencing icons, if you use one of the icons in our icon set, the full list of icons can be found in our docs in the reference. You can go here and then to panel and icons, and you can see all the icons that are available here. You can also go to our UI documentation if you are in there already. For example, if you're working on plugins or on components for our panel, you can also find them on the subdomain, on the lab subdomain, which then has all the documentation about our panel interface. And if you want to use your own icons, for example, you could also build a little icon plugin and then reference the icons from your own icon set. All of this is possible to set icons. But again, as I said before, it's not really ideal, because what I really want is a representation for each individual bookmark. And one simple way to solve this is by adding new fields to our bookmarks. Let's quickly do this. So instead of defining icons and colors here, I can now create new fields down here and create a new icon field. And I keep this a simple text field. And I also want to have a background field, and I keep this, I want to use the new color field for this. Going back to the panel, I can see now that I have the two new fields. And the icon field I kept as a simple text field, because now I can either still reference one of our icons, or I can paste in one of my emojis. And the icon picker, I can pick any color I want. Nice and simple. Going back to the bookmarks, this doesn't do anything. So I haven't used those fields yet. I need to reference them in my image settings. How can I do that? I can do this with our syntax, with our query syntax. You might have seen this before. It is available in a lot of Blueprint options to define the titles for your pages section or the info text for your pages section, and you can also use it here. It looks like this. With curly braces, you start, and then you can use the current page. The current page means if we go back to the table, it would be the Kirby CMS page here, and then a neural DSP page here, etc., etc. So always like the current page, as I said. And then from there on, we have access to all the page fields and all the page methods that are available. Because we just created an icon and a background field, we can now use them up here. We can use the icon field here, and we can use the background field here. Really, really simple. By linking them together, the value of the icon field and the value of the background field will now be put in here and define our image settings. As you can see, it already works. We can now go through different options, different pages here, and add a few more things, randomly adding icons, emojis, and colors. And this is how we can customize the image settings for each individual item. I'm not entirely sure if this is what I want to achieve for the bookmarks list though, because I want to add a title and I want to add a link quickly, and I just want to keep them in there. I don't have the time to pick a color for each item, and I also don't really want to pick an icon for each one. So what I would prefer is to have an individual color and an individual icon for each category. But I'm not really sure how to do this. I could use the category field here, but then each category would need to have its custom icon reference. And I also could use the category here, and then each category would need to have its own color, which is also not really possible in this way. So I'm a bit stuck here. How do we solve this? And this is where page models come in. So far, as I showed you, we have access to the default page object in Kirby, and the default page object in Kirby is already super powerful. It has all these built-in methods that you are using in templates. It has access to all the content fields that we are defining. So it already is pretty great in itself. But there are points in some projects where you feel like, I wish that a page could do more than that. How do we create models? Models are created in the same way that you create your controllers or your templates. So this is very consistent throughout Kirby. What we need to do is we need to create a new folder called models inside the site folder. And then inside the models folder, we need to create a new file. And that file, very much like a template or very much like a controller, has to have the same name as the text file you are using, the text file name or the blueprint file name. In this case, we want to create a model for our bookmark. Each bookmark should use this model instead of the default page object that we are, or the default page class that we are using, or that is defined in Kirby. And now it gets a bit more tricky for those of you who have never worked with classes or object-oriented programming in Kirby, but please don't be intimidated, because it's mostly about building the scaffolding right, and afterwards it's totally easy. After all, we just need a simple PHP file, nothing complicated here, and then we create a class. And the class has to be named in a certain way. We already named the bookmark.php file, and according to what we used so far in our content folder and also in the templates, and as I said, throughout the system. So it's what we already know, how things are linked to or connected to each other in Kirby. But by using or by defining a page model, we also have to make sure that the class name is correct. The class name has to be bookmark page. So you combine the same name here with page, and we advise to use uppercase here for the page class name. This way Kirby can know, okay, this is a page model for the bookmark type, and it extends our regular page. This is all you need to get started. Now Kirby knows that it has to pick up this class whenever it finds a bookmark page, and it uses this one instead of the page, and it inherits all the options, all the methods, everything that page already has, and now you can extend it. And here you get into territory where you really can extend the core of Kirby, and you can override existing methods and existing ways that pages are built and well sorted and updated, and everything that is possible inside a page can be overwritten here. And this also comes with a certain responsibility, or I'm not going to quote this Superman quote here, but just a word of advice. If you start working with page models, have a closer look at what pages can already do. We can do this by going, I already made a mistake here. We can do this by going to our docs, to the reference again. And in the reference, you see the objects here, and inside the objects, or under the objects, you can find the page object. And the page object has all those built-in methods that you might have or might not have used so far. And whenever you build something and you extend the page object, you should make sure that you are using a new method name that does not collide with one of those. Or if you want to override one of those, then please have a closer look at the definition of those page methods. Go to GitHub, to our source code, or go to the source code directly in your Kirby folder and have a closer look how we implemented it, and then extend it from there. But my advice would be to always make sure that you use new object method names that aren't there yet, either as a built-in method or as a field name. Because if you use a method name that collides with a field name, you can no longer access that field in the same way. What I want to do now here is I want to create a new category icon and also a new category color method, and use those to optimize our table. We define those as public functions, and as I said before, category icon does not exist yet, and category color does not exist yet, and so we can safely create those. Why am I doing this at all? Because what kind of advantage does those model methods now give us? We have access within those model methods to the page object, and we can do all kinds of logic around this. This is kind of a computed field or computed property that we can add to the page. Let me show you quickly what I mean with that. We are just going to test this first with a simple return value for both methods that will just help us to evaluate if it's working at all what we are doing here. So I'm just returning red as color and a simple celebration icon here. Okay, now let's find out if Kirby is actually loading this here or if we messed something up. As you've seen before, while I was typing, Kirby was already updating something in the background, and then the page class wasn't done yet, so it ran into an error. This is no big deal, and just reload again and you should be good to go. Let's go to our table. Nothing is in there. This is fine. Back to okay, we still have the category in here, but this is why it's not working. First thing, we can remove this because we no longer need those fields. And in the settings, now I can use those new methods and see if they are working. Category icon, category, what do I call it? Color. You could also call it back, doesn't really matter. So if we did everything correct, if we called our models file correctly and the class correctly, now this should pick up the return values that I just created for the two methods. Yay, it's working, celebration. So exactly what I wanted. This is cool. Back to our model. Now we can really start coding in here, because this is quite the exciting part, right? While you often will work with the page variable in your templates, inside a object function or an object method, you can use this to reference the current page. Now the auto-completion is crap here. So now to access the category for each page, we can do this. And we could now do something like, if the category is cookbook, return the color orange, and then otherwise return red. This would be a really simple way to optimize or to specify this here. Let's see if this works. Do we have a cookbook bookmark? Oh yeah, we have one. Why does this not work? Whenever you work with the page in your template and you use page category, for example, this would, and you echo this would return whatever value is in the field. But here we are comparing it strictly. So like using 3 equal signs means it's comparing it strictly. It really wants this to be the same as this. And fields in Kirby are objects. Those objects, when you use them in your templates, they simply get converted to strings whenever needed, as soon as you echo them. But in here, it's not converted yet. So this would not be a string. It's not the string cookbook that you get here. It's a field object with the value category. So if we want to make strict comparisons, we can use the value method of the field object, and then we can compare this strictly. And now it should work. And now it doesn't. Why doesn't? What did I messed this up by using page, which is of course wrong. So now if we change this back to this, it's all working as expected. So now we can start defining different colors. Why am I talking about this at all? Because this is something that you might have already run into, maybe in your templates if you try to compare something, but it will appear more regularly if you get into coding stuff like this. It could also be helpful in your controllers or everywhere else. Just keep this in mind. If you access a field, that field is an object, and that field has a value method that you can use to make strict comparisons. So now we have access to our categories. We can now define different colors. So let's say, okay, tag gets blue, and then we have environment, and that would get the typical green. What's up? Environment. Here we go. Yeah, that's great. It looks good. It starts to look really nice. I'm not super happy with those if clauses in here. Let me give you a bit of a excursion here on, is it excursion? That is a literal translation of a German word. I'm not entirely sure you know what I mean. Something that has come up in PHP 8.1, I think, is the match thingy. and it is just perfect for this case. So what match does is you can give it a value, in this case the category, and then you can say, you can define whatever the value is and say, okay, when the value is cookbook, then give me orange. When the value is tech, give me blue. When the value is environment, give me green. And by default, give me red. So we can trim this down quite a bit, make this a bit nicer. And so it starts to look really, really easy to read and also easy to extend. And it's wonderful. We use it all the time. It's really useful for stuff like this. So whenever you come to a place like this, keep match in mind. It's great. So now we can copy this and move over here and do the same thing for the icons. Say, okay, cookbook gets a nice salad and tech gets a laptop and environment gets a leaf or sapling or whatever that is, and the default one is just the bookmark icon. Open our panel again, and here we go. Yay, we have individual icons, we have individual colors, and they are bound to the category, which is all pretty cool. I'm not super happy with the colors though, because the contrast between the emoji and the color is not great. And you've seen I'm using keywords here, and those keywords aren't directly connected to CSS keywords. They are connected to our color set in the panel. What we can do in general for the background option here for the image, what we are doing basically in here now in our model is we can either use CSS definitions, so we can use like hex colors, or we could use RGBA or RGB colors. We have full access to everything that is available in CSS, but we also have access to stuff that we define in our UI CSS, in our UI variables. This brings me back to the lab, because this is why I opened it before. In our lab, in lab.getkirby.com, you can find the icons as I showed you before. And you can also find our colors. And sometimes this is really useful, especially for cases like this. If you want to choose colors that work well with our icon set, with our UI, you can use the colors that we already define, and they are all defined here, or they are all described here. So we can use color keywords here to use them for our categories. So now I would use something like this. Color orange 300 would be a reference to a CSS variable that we set. So now this would pick the orange with the value 300. Contrast looks nice. It could also be 400. Works a bit nicer. This is great. So now we can start replacing all of this. Use our blue, use our green, and use our red. And now we have a customized color set for the categories, which uses our built-in colors, so it matches nicely with whatever colors are in the rest of the interface. And it even works when you use a custom panel CSS, which is also possible to customize the panel styles that you don't really like. You could set your own CSS variables in there, and then you could reference those. You don't have to use ours. It's just a suggestion to keep it consistent, but it's not really necessary. So from here on, oh, one thing that I forgot to mention, of course, all of this is now also available in your templates. So if I go to let's go here to the Rise stuff, and I open this up, I don't have a template yet. This is built on the plain kit. It doesn't define anything useful in here. But if I go to my default template, let's create another one for the bookmark just to make this clean. We create a template for our bookmark, we copy this over, And now we have the same. And now I want to have my category. That's the simple access to my field, as it has always been. Now I can access the category. But now I can also access the category icon. And I can also access the category color if I want. So everything that is defined in my model becomes automatically available in the panel, but also available in the templates. And I hope this shows what kind of power lies in those models, how far you can take this. The brilliant part now is when you have a list of bookmarks in your templates, each individual page will always have the same reference to the color and the icons here. So the list could also be built super easily with those methods in mind, and then show different icons in there. So just like the same thing that we are doing in the panel. Models are absolutely brilliant, and you can do so many things with those. As I said, you have to be a bit more careful about reserved method names and reserved fields. But once you're using those, you can really get to some crazy results with it. The next steps from here on would be to move those category definitions into the config maybe, and then get a better connection to the select field that we defined. This is also possible, but I want to stop at this point and just leave you with that. I hope it adds a couple more ideas how you can use the blueprints in combination with models and with all those settings that are available to just get the best result out there that you wish for. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.